Alrighty, should be live. You haven't been on here for a little bit. Seems like the screens are a little different, but hello everyone. Happy Thursday. Just gonna give it a few seconds to let people get in. But yeah, hope everyone's having a good time. Hope people have been taking some cool trips lately. I feel like I have too much to talk about. I don't think I'm even gonna be able to get into everything on this live because I don't want to have it going too long. But yeah, I feel like there's just been so many different things that have been happening in the points and miles world. It's even been kind of hard to even keep up with it. It's just like, wow, look at all these different changes that have been going on. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. But people could just drop some comments, maybe saying what's up, so I know that you can hear me, you can see me. Cool. But yeah, the main topic for today is going to be should you redeem your least valuable miles first? So there were some situations that happened with me when it came to me redeeming some of my points for my most recent trip. And I didn't go about it in a way that was I guess, most comfortable, but I did it in a way that I felt better about because of the fact that I was able to get rid of some points that I didn't feel that were the most valuable anymore. Hey, we got a few comments. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much. Awesome. I'm happy to have people in here. I want to know, what deals have you taken advantage of this month? So have you booked something that you've done this month? Is there any different deals that you've done? An example would be something that I just recently did was Amazon and American Express had that deal where if you use one American Express point, you can get, like, I forget how much percentage off. I want to say it was near 50%, but I was able to get an $89 gift card because the gift cards were actually counted on there. Correction. I spent $89 or $90 on a gift card that cost $150. So I was able to do it with a hotels.com just because that was part of something that sold from Amazon, they said. So they sent that over to me. I got $150 worth of gift card for $90 for hotels. So this is great for if I need to stay at hotels where there isn't going to be a Hyatt, or if I need to stay at a Marriott, or if I'm just really low on Hilton points, things like that. Then this is going to be a way to be able to stay at those properties, not really even care as much about status for some of the ones I'm going to be staying at. So that's the reason why I took advantage of that, because although last year I predominantly stayed at like Hyatt properties and I did use some points for some Hiltons, there was still a time where I went to a wedding, and staying at that wedding, I had to spend money out of pocket for that one. I feel like there was one other hotel that I stayed at that just wasn't connected to any chain, and it was just the way I went about it. So you definitely always have to look into taking advantage of those deals. But that Amazon with American Express deal, just used one American Express membership reward point, and it gave me $60 in savings, which is pretty awesome. Let's see here. What do we got? I think about redeeming points on a discounted cruise for two. It's 1 cent per point, but it's meals and drinks for two. Oh, that's pretty awesome. I do like that you get the meals and drinks for two. I don't like the 1 cent per point because at 1 cent per point, I would look at trying to do cash back with something first. So there's nothing wrong with cash back. I think people look at it in the wrong way, but if you can get, well, honestly, if it's the trip you want to take, then I would say take that trip. I'm not even going to say no. So I would say, yeah, if it works out for you and it makes the most sense, ideally you want to try to get over 1.5 cents per point, because below 1.5 cents per point, you can use something like the Aeroplan card. I've made videos on the channel before about the Aeroplan card. So if you happen to have Chase Ultimate Reward points that you're redeeming, you could use the Aeroplan card to get yourself at least 1.25 cents per point. If you do it during a transfer bonus, you can get 1.5 technically with the transfer bonus, and actually redeeming the card, because you have the card, you get additional 10%. Actually ends up being 1.625. My apologies. So that's even a better way to go about redeeming it as compared to just getting 1 cent. So because of that, I typically say, like, if it's an emergency, then yeah, do 1 cent. Or like if you were like, hey, I need to get over to a funeral, I need to go to some of these different places, and I just don't have the cash to be able to do it, that's where I try to do 1 cent per point. But if I can get a better deal with something like the Aeroplan card, a lot of people have made videos about I guess you can't get the Outdoor Reserve anymore, but that ended up being one. And then also something like the Chase Sapphire Reserve or Preferred, you should be able to, well, those you have to go through the portal. But hopefully there can be a way that somehow you can get better than just 1 cent per point. But if that's the trip, if this is like a dream trip that you and the person you're going with really want to take, who am I to say that it's in the end, you're really going to care that much about losing out on? I'd prefer you get a better deal, but I more than anything want you to take a trip. While not ideal, I was able to cash in my Venture X welcome bonus for a 2-week stay at random Taiwan hotel stay. Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, I went to Taiwan last year, and Taiwan's cool. Taiwan, their train system is really, really good, although just make sure you can't even drink water on the train. I was told you're not supposed to eat on the train. I go, fine. And I had a bottle of water, and I have like a chronic cough that's always around. And I just took a sip of it, and this woman was like, she said it very politely and just smiled at me and goes, "You're not allowed to drink water on the plane, around on the train." I was like, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah, you're not allowed to, no food, no drinks. No one eats or drinks on here." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." She goes, "Oh, no, it's fine. I understood you didn't know." So, but I found that kind of funny. But other than that, I had a really good time out there. I was about to try the sticky tofu, and then I went into the line and waiting in the line to get the sticky tofu. It smelled so bad that when I got to the front line, I was like, I can't eat this. So I just didn't want to smell like that stuff. But yeah, I like the night markets. Taiwan's a cool place. So that's awesome. Hopefully you have a great time for 2 weeks out there. Wow, I wasn't there for that long. I was only there for like a couple of days. But that should be cool. That should be really, really cool. You said for the welcome bonus, you're able to get 2 weeks stay. Did you use any of that bonus to help you get the flights over there? Is something I'm curious about, Leo. Or was it just for the hotel stay? Good to be welcome, the Rewards Master. Happy to have you here. Happy to have you here. And left over for a future trip. Cool. Hey, Rewards Master. I just love your channel. Oh, cool. Yes, people, hit the like button. If you do that, then hopefully more people will come in to watch this live. I'm going to start jumping into more of the topics. But a few things that I want to talk about, because there's just been a lot of different things that have been going on in the world of points and miles, is one of the big things that I feel like should be talked about that people kind of just, I've seen a few articles and no one's taking it as serious, or I mean, they don't make it seem as big as maybe I've seen it to be. But the deal with JetBlue and JAL. So Japan Airlines and JetBlue are now partnered. And to me, I feel like this is bigger than people are making it seem, because this makes Chase Ultimate Reward points stronger. This makes Citi Thank You points, which I think are already pretty strong, they're just harder to earn, stronger. Because now having the ability to book Japan Airlines business, you can't do first class with JetBlue, but you can do their business class product, their economy, or their premium economy, redeeming JetBlue miles for a reasonable price. It's going to be pretty much the same thing if you're going from like the West Coast of the US, trying to redeem your American Airlines miles to book a Japan Airlines business class. The difference ends up being that American Airlines miles are significantly harder to come by. You can't just transfer, at least at the time, you can't just transfer over at a 1-to-1 ratio. And even Alaskan Airlines miles charges significantly more. And the reason why this ends up being really valuable is because these US airlines have either very low or no cancellations. So JetBlue, if you book a flight with Japan Airlines and you end up booking the business class flight and it doesn't work out for you, it's not going to cost you anything for a cancel. This is a beautiful thing of something like American Airlines, where American Airlines miles, while they also have like the cheapest deals out there, they at the same time have free cancellations, which makes them a great way to speculatively book and then also be able to get yourself a better day or deal that you may end up like wanting to do it on. So if you're like, oh, I really want to go over to Japan, but this Wednesday isn't going to work the greatest, but I'll book it just if I can. Oh, actually, it opened up on the Fridays, which is when I want to go. Bam, now I'm going to end up booking it on the Friday, and you can just cancel it, and you're able to book on the day you want, but you had a backup plan just in case. So now you're going to be able to do that with JetBlue miles. So JetBlue miles has Qatar Airways at 70,000 points, at least to just get over to Doha. It has it's always had Hawaiian, but Hawaiian, it's not really as competitive because it goes for, I think, like 50,000 points if you want to do Hawaiian Airlines over to Hawaii in their business class. And now it has Japan Airlines. Now, the problem with the Japan Airlines currently is that the prices are all over the place. And to be honest, I don't think that's even going to, like, might be one of the reasons why not as many, I would say, like, although it's been talked about like a little bit, is that people aren't as excited because JetBlue has kind of done this before with programs, and they just changed the award prices just out of nowhere. So I remember even like, I guess this wasn't with JetBlue specifically, but like, I guess it was them, but it was with Qatar. There was a point where Qatar was allowing people to book JetBlue business class. They still can, but it was like super cheap. And then like after a day, they just jacked the price like 3x what it was, which I understood because I was like, no one's ever going to book with JetBlue because it was like, I want to say 30,000 points to book a business class transcontinental with JetBlue using Qatar Airways miles, like when it first dropped, something ridiculously low like that. And then there's also been the TAP Portugal deal that's been going on with JetBlue that changed prices. So so last night I was like looking at it, and then this morning before I went to the gym, I checked it out, and I feel like things changed in price. Everything was kind of weird. I even messaged the guy from Seats.Aero because I was kind of like looking on there to try to see what days were available, and he was saying the same thing. He goes, I think that they're changing the price. So I think they're going to maybe test it out, and then something tells me they're going to end up bumping up the price, because I'm surprised that they're actually lower right now than Alaskan Airlines. So yeah, that ends up being, I guess they are like a little bit lower than Alaskan Airlines if you look at doing with Qatar as well. So yeah, JetBlue is trying to make their miles more valuable, trying to do some bigger things, I think, with their program. Let's see. So get some compliments over here. It was the only hotel stay, but I was able to use $300 credit for a flight. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Anyone think the Chase will change the Hyatt sub soon? Unlikely. I was over 524 with the 5 free nights last time. I mean, maybe, but the Hyatt subs have been kind of lame for a minute. I wouldn't even say no. I think the best they've ever done it was 60,000 points. And then, I mean, would you rather 5 free nights or 60,000 points? You got to kind of weigh that, how you want to go about that. But something that I don't think that you're going to end up seeing a like really good offer. I guess if you want the 5 free nights, then that's probably going to pop up sometime this year. Have they done, was it 5 or is it 4? I'm trying to remember what it was. I thought it was 4, but we got Wong Wei. What's up? What's up, everybody? Evening, JetBlue. Yes, premium economy. What is it? Oh, West Coast, same points. Yeah. So that's where I start to see it, where it's like, I think it's 59,000 points with JetBlue, and it's 60,000 points with American Airlines. So I don't think it's going to last, if I'm going to be honest. If by next month, if that thing jumps up to being like 75 or 80,000 points, I wouldn't be surprised. JetBlue sometimes has transfer bonuses with Chase, so that would make that even lower. I mean, that would end up being like really, really good, because you can book, like every program kind of has their thing of like, you can get it earlier, but then it can end up being like more expensive. You look at something like booking with Asia Miles or British Airways, and then the cancellation fees end up being a little bit higher. But then if you get it later, you can end up getting like cheaper cancellations with American Airlines, with Alaskan Airlines. So there's all these different things where programs have like their way of I guess like being better, or not better, but yeah, having their own thing that's like better about them that they have. Whereas you don't really, with JetBlue, I'm like, wow, they're going to be somehow jumping above American Airlines, which I would think was going to have a devaluation soon. So I don't know. We'll see. So that's something I'm excited about, something that I was looking at and I wanted to touch on. So kind of crazy. It's 9. I know. Yeah. So for Hawaiian Airlines, if you want to book Hawaiian Airlines to get over to Japan, it ends up being 99,000 JetBlue miles. You could book it with Hawaiian for 65,000. But then that's going from Hawaii over to Tokyo. Whereas if you do from LA, or I don't know if it's LA, I only saw San Fran. From San Fran over to Tokyo ends up being 59,000 with Japan Airlines, which is a better airline, further distance for what is it, like 30,000 less points? Almost 40,000 less points. So that's kind of funny that it goes about it that way. So yeah, that's something to look at. But one thing that I have noticed is that as I said, the prices are all over the place. So I was just checking around to see what is it to go from Japan over to Taipei. Funny enough, we're talking about Taiwan. To go from Japan over to Taiwan, I think that ended up being 40,000 points. To go from Japan over to Bangkok was 85,000. Even though Seats.Aero was saying it was like 30,000, but they were having an error. because the prices are all moving around. So maybe give it a couple weeks. We'll see what ends up being. But that's something I think that people should really be looking at, because if you were someone who has Chase Ultra Reward points, honestly, they haven't been having the best way to go about booking a lot of flights, because while they do have United and Southwest and they had JetBlue, they have all these different domestic airlines that we like, the deals don't end up being the best. And really, for me, Chase should end up being, okay, it's either going to be Aeroplan or it's Hyatt, and I just don't even really look at the other airline or other programs. But now with this is something where you may end up going, okay, now JetBlue is in the mix because it has the ability to be able to book these different programs and it has free cancellation. So look out for like just the JetBlue business card, just the regular JetBlue card, because it's going to end up being ways to get miles, not just do some domestic JetBlue flights, but instead now you can be able to book some premium ways to travel. ANA around the world, anyone? ANA's around the world is going to be gone in 2 months. So here's the thing about the around the world. It's something that I think on paper ends up being really cool because of how cheap it is. And I've looked into it and I've thought like it would be kind of cool to try to book it, but it's not something that's impossible to book. And I've seen ways to be able to do it, but it's kind of a pain. And the amount of time that it actually takes, for me, I would be like, well, I could just pay a few more, be able to book a One World and a Star Alliance and book kind of how I want and when I want, and not have to wait and have everything on the exact day. So because of that, I've always seen it as being something that's cool, but something that I wasn't really going to be booking. So I feel bad for anyone who really wanted to try to take advantage of that. Maybe just travel for, I don't know, maybe like a few months around the world and do something like that. But for me, it was something that I'm like, this is not ever going to really be something I would take advantage of. But it is sad to see it gone because it was a really good deal if you did actually go through the process of actually trying to do it. I'm just going to go through a few more comments and then I'll go over to some of the more themes of the live. So we have Addie says, hi, what miles would you redeem for Hong Kong? Or I don't know what CAN is. Someone have to tell me what that is. I don't know off the top of my head. I have a lot of points with Chase, Amex, Capital One. Okay, cool. So if you have these points, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to book for Hong Kong. You can do Cathay Pacific. Now, the way Cathay Pacific ends up working, it's not really going to end up being that, like if you looked right now for the farthest out date, they don't usually do it like that for their own flights. You can do that to book Japan Airlines and some other programs. But with them, they're kind of weird about how they go about redeeming it. Because I was trying to actually help someone, ended up helping them with booking what did they book? Korean Air, because we ended up going a different way. But I was looking into that, and what I noticed is that it's going to end up being like they'll just have a dump of a month of just different award deals, where a lot of the times it ends up being first class coming from LA for, I want to say 125,000. Yeah. And then there tends to always be, if you're trying to go from Hong Kong over to the US, then there usually ends up being a lot more deals doing that versus going the other way. I think the reason why they do that is because I think they want the people who, they know that the people who are there in Hong Kong can't acquire the miles as easy, so they make it easier for them to actually be able to book, whereas we can, and then they actually make it end up being less deals. And I remember one time I was looking at it to where if you wanted to fly from the US and go over there, it was like tons of deals to go from LA or San Fran over to Hong Kong in, let's say, August, but then to fly home, all the deals were open in June. So I was like, well, the only way that, or let's say July, it was July. So I was like, the only way that would work is if you were doing the reverse. You really wouldn't be able to, you'd have to be someone coming from Hong Kong over to the US versus the vice versa. Now, sometimes what will end up happening is the next month, that stuff will end up moving over, but you just have to hope that it ends up working out. But Asia Miles is something that I would look at. If not Asia Miles, depending on how many people you're flying with, you're flying by yourself, you definitely could be able to do with Eva Air. They're going to be releasing one seat a lot of the times. You might even be able to do it with if you're okay with stopping. But Eva Air can end up getting you over there. Starlux is something that can get you over there as well. Starlux has been becoming significantly less available, I think, ever since like the Amex transfer to Alaskan, because I used to see it quite a bit, and now I'm starting to see it. I see it when you get closer into the days, but I swear there used to be 2 seats. There was even times we were doing like 4 seats, and it just become less and less and less with Starlux lately. So I think that it ends up being like people can get Alaska miles too easily. But yeah, I would say look at, you have Capital One miles that transfer over to Cathay Pacific, and you also have Amex points that transfer over to Cathay Pacific. That'd be the way I would go about it, at least first, because it can get you direct over there. And then if that doesn't work out, then check out with Asia Miles to be able to do it. And then, sorry, Asia Miles with Aeroplan points to be able to book to go over, you'd have to stop. And then if that doesn't work out, the last one I would end up looking at would end up being Singapore Airlines. You could be able to fly over to Singapore, you'd have to stop in Singapore and then go up over there. That I think is going to end up being the most expensive, but they tend to have more availability in business class. So that could end up being an option. Oh, we got Stan, big man Stan. What's going on? How are you doing? Stan asked, Stan saying, asked you this earlier this year, but wanted to know if your response has changed. If I wanted to book a Starlux flight to Asia, should I do? No. So actually, I was just literally saying, I've been checking it out, and there was actually someone who I was helping out with my assisted bookings that I do for people. And I was trying to figure out if that could end up being an option. And my goodness, it just has been become slim pickings when it comes to going across the ocean. You can do Starlux if you're already over there and trying to fly from other places from Taipei. But if we're specifically looking at right now, redeeming Alaska miles, I think that so many people have just taken advantage of the transfer bonus with membership reward points over there who didn't previously have Alaska miles, but who are people who are deep into the points miles game. And now they're taking advantage of deals like that. So it's not that Starlux is not open, but what I've been seeing is that it's mainly either been one seat, it's only been close in, and it's just no. I wouldn't. I would if it's specifically Starlux, I would say no, because also additionally for the trip you were talking about, there's other options to be able to get there that you could take advantage of. Although it might end up seeming like a longer, I guess it is technically a longer way, but you're gonna have to stop either way. You could book something. If Starlux was your hope, then that's great. But at the same time, what's considered to be even a better business class is Qatar Q Suites. You stop in Doha and be able to get over to the destination you were telling me about. So that could end up being an option. For that reason, I wouldn't want a speculative transfer, because if you did that, you'd only really have the options of Japan Airlines or Starlux to be able to get over there, and you'd kind of be running out. I guess technically you could end up using Alaska miles to be able to book Qatar, but the deal isn't very good, especially for the route you'd be going. So no, I wouldn't. I've been looking at Starlux, and even for myself, I've been kind of trying to see some. I already have another Starlux flight booked, but I booked it before the transfer with Hawaiian and Alaskan was live. So now seeing it, especially for 2 seats, unfortunately not. So yeah, I'm happy that, because I think originally I said, honestly, I like it a lot. But now, and here's the thing, I still think Alaska miles are very valuable, and there's ways to go about them that can work really well. But if it's for this specific thing that you want to fly, like the only luck that I think that could happen is that for the route that you're talking about that's going to be opening up, I don't even want to say because I know people might just look for it. When it happens, there might end up being tons of things that get dropped as soon as it happens. So then you'd have to time that out perfectly, and it's just so I don't think it has released yet. If it has, then we already missed the date. But I'm pretty sure there hasn't actually been availability that's popped up yet. But yeah. So unfortunately, no, yeah, that's not going to end up being the best way to go about it. What's going on, Dugras? How are you doing? Welcome. JP, looking for a doubleheader family trip in spring to Dublin, London, in Avios. To Aer Lingus, still good value. Yeah, you could do it that way. You could fly JetBlue over there. JetBlue is probably going to end up having the most seats. So if you're trying to get over to, if I remember correctly, they have Dublin, right? I'm pretty sure they have Dublin, where you can end up doing it, but they open up a lot of seats, JetBlue, for their business class. Now, you don't want to just do it like the regular price, but since Avios has 30% transfer bonuses all the time, that's something that I've actually helped someone else book, who was a family of 4. So doing something like that could end up working. But Aer Lingus, I haven't flown them yet. I know that they have availability with, I think they also are partnered with Alaskan as well. So they have availability with Alaskan, and you can end up just transferring over the Avios if you can find the amount of seats. So yeah, if that's to get the direct, check out that, but also check out JetBlue, which I'm pretty sure has that as well. I'm trying to remember if it was London or this was a while ago they helped that person book. But I know they do it to London. I'm pretty sure they also do it to Dublin. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, I do want to get through some more of these comments, but then I also want to get over to, oh, wow, we got a super sticker as well. Thank you. Thank you, QC Man. We use Finnair to book with Cathay. Yes, you could all sign up doing that as well. Just the availability ends up being, Cathay doesn't open up as much availability to some of the other programs. So it is possible. It's kind of like the same thing as like you can book Japan Airlines business class with American Airlines miles, and people always talk about that. It's fantastic. It's 60,000 points. However, the availability has to drop before going through Japan Airlines, going through Cathay Pacific, going through going through Qantas, and then also going through British Airways. So going through all these other programs, and then they get over to them. So if you can find the availability, fantastic. But I just have noticed that when you're looking for when Cathay Pacific dumps space, they dump. You can go on their calendar and they just have a bunch of different days. And to be honest, don't even go specifically to where those days are, to where it has the highlighted days, because you can just click on a random day and sometimes it's just available. The thing's not very accurate, to be honest. So because of that, yes, that is the better deal, but definitely still check out. I think they charge 85,000 for the business class with Cathay. So you have 85. Use Finnair, yeah. So I guess it's, or maybe it's 87,000. It might end up being a little more expensive with Cathay, but it doesn't have more availability. So check both. Is it worth it with the Amex? So this is something that, worth it transferring Amex to? Yeah, so this is something that Stan was kind of asking about, but he was looking more for like a specific flight. I took huge advantage of it, and from the rumors that are going on right now is that this is probably going to end sometime in June. It appears that way. We don't know for sure. It might end up ending before that, but it seems likely that they might end up having the merger be more completed. And when that ends up happening, it's most likely going to be no longer Hawaiian. It's going to end up being a mixture of it, which may end up ending the deal with American Express. So because of that, you really have to look at how much you're using Alaska Miles. So before this merger happened, I redeemed hundreds of thousands of Alaska Miles already before, for a flight to Japan, for a flight over to, where did I go to? Fiji and different things like that. So I was already redeeming them before. So they worked out for me for how I was already doing things. Then I also did it for like transcontinental flights, because I grew up in Massachusetts and I go visit family over there. So because of that, it was already making sense for me. But if you're just like, oh, I see everyone else is taking advantage of this, I want to kind of just jump on it. You could, but it comes down to how many points you already have. If you have a million membership reward points, then yes, I would say take advantage of a transfer bonus, or take advantage of this transfer deal before it's gone, because it just ends up being a good way to get a one world partner for very cheap cancellation fees. But if you were someone who has 150,000, 200,000, I'm not going to tell you to transfer over all 200,000, because then you may end up losing out on another option that can end up being a Star Alliance partner to book, to fly. If, say, you want to go over to Japan, you're like, I'll do this and I want to fly over Japan, but then ANA opens up. Now you've lost that ability, either with Air Canada, either with Virgin Atlantic. So you don't want to do too much. I kind of actually have a question about that later on, about some speculative bookings that came up from someone who sent me on Instagram. All right, let's go through this. Hey, JP, first time watching the live, has been watching videos with great advice. Thank you. Question: if you're transferring out, do you look for one who is in the few ecosystems and spread the points? Hold on, let me read that again. Transferring out, do you look for one who is in a few ecosystems and spread the points? I don't know if I know exactly what you mean there. So if I'm transferring my points out, I typically do it. So if I'm speculatively transferring, I don't know if that's what you're asking. Like, do I speculatively transfer to someone who has different ways to? Usually when I'm transferring out my points, how I go about it is I'm going to do it one of two ways. The number one way that everyone recommends is you transfer out your points to a program that you see the award availability that you want to book, and that's when you want to transfer your points. That is the way that 90% of people should be transferring their points, because if you end up doing it, just transferring out because you see a transfer bonus or something like that, then you're just gonna have your points stuck with this program. You're gonna be annoyed that you can't figure out exactly how to redeem them because now you have less options with them not being as versatile. However, as you start to get way more advanced in the game and you start to see that you're using certain programs, miles all the time, like myself, I speculatively transfer because I know that I'm going to use Avios. I know that I'm going to use Virgin Atlantic miles, and I know I'm going to end up using Alaska miles. So because of that, I have done speculative transfers to these programs, even though I didn't end up seeing award availability because of, I guess what you're saying, the partners that are connected with them. I know I'm going to be able to take advantage of flying with one of these different programs. So because of that, I have done that with some speculative transfers, but I don't know if I'm answering your question correctly. The way I would say to go about it is transfer out to programs, specifically when you see your award availability, unless you are more advanced in redeeming points, then do it if you end up seeing a high opportunity of getting a transfer bonus. Exactly. Worth speculative transfer. Yeah, so I think I already answered that from Travel Plan. Speculative transfer. Yeah, so speculative transfer to Alaska, mainly if you end up seeing that, if you just know that you're going to use Alaska miles. It's really what it comes down to. Yeah, so I know that I use them. I'm someone who ends up using those miles, and because of that, I have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Alaska miles. In fact, I've transferred like almost all of my I'm kind of in some of the programs that I have all these different points with. I'm gonna say a little embarrassed because if I told people like how many I have over there, they'd be like, "Whoa, that's a lot." But I'm like, I've been using them, and then there's just times where I go, "Oh wow, if I need to go over to Europe for whatever reason, like I could fly on Condor, even though it's not the best. You still ends up costing, if it's from the West Coast, 70,000 points. I could do from, I think they have an LA or San Fran flight over to Frankfurt to go be able to see my brother who's stationed at the Air Force base that's kind of close to there. So it's like, yeah, that's an awesome way to be able to get it when I have a difficult time trying to find award availability over to Europe from the West Coast of the US. Because a lot of times I'm gonna have to kind of travel somewhere, whether it be Dallas. I mean, I found flights from the West Coast over to Europe, so it's not like it's impossible. But there's been other times where I've flown over to Dallas, and I've flown over to New York, and I've flown over to Boston first and hung out with family, and then went over to Europe. Because it ends up being a little bit more challenging finding the flights over here. So even though Condor isn't listed as the best airline, the convenience factor of being able to lay flatbed just from the West Coast US is fantastic. Stan says, thank you. Yep. Awesome. Very nice. Happy to hear. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No reason to be jealous. We all get to book some cool stuff. You book some cool things. So yeah. Let's see. One says, I think you can fly to Shannon and Dublin via JetBlue. Okay, yes, you can fly. Yes, I'm almost positive I helped someone book that, but I was trying to remember because I remember I was also looking at London, and I was like, wait, I was looking at London and I was looking at Paris. I was like, did I also do Dublin? Because I was showing them that, and the person said that they wanted to go to Dublin, but then we found it, and then we ended up going to like another thing, and I was trying to remember, did we even go to Dublin or did we choose London? And I guess it was months ago, so I can barely remember exactly what I was doing. Okay, so I'm going to go over to some of the things that I had set up here just because as cool as it is talking to everyone in the chat, you can keep on writing to me. I am going to answer those questions, but I just have a bunch of different topics that I do want to get on here. So one of the things I do want to name as I've helped people is that I have a course, Points Travel 101. If you purchase my course, it's going to help you be able to make award bookings and go over my different tricks for ways to go about how to be able to find award availability and how to be able to book the best flight deals out there, taking advantage of transfer bonuses and just how I'm able to take these trips. Like I don't have an unlimited amount of points, and I'm able to take these trips for lower prices because I end up taking advantage of different deals out there. So check out Points Travel 101 if you want to purchase my course. I was actually really happy. I had a couple people purchase it last week, so it's been doing okay. Yeah, I'm happy about that. So thank you everyone who has bought it, and it also comes with an hour consultation. So if you do end up getting it, and whether you want to do it in the beginning and you need some questions about a trip you want to book, or after you end up going through it and you also have some questions that you may end up having after going through it, then I can still also answer those as well. Now I had a community post, and I had people ask questions, and I mainly just got the question from my photo, which had me in Swiss Airlines, Swiss Air's business class. And Luke Points Miles asked the question. He said, please tell us on the live how you liked Swiss Air. So what I will say about Swiss Airlines business class is, first, I want to get over the entire story of how I even ended up getting over to booking Swiss Airlines business class. I didn't originally book it. So originally what I did was I booked TAP Portugal's business class because I was going to Portugal for a wedding. So there was a destination wedding, not at Lisbon specifically. It was at the, there's a Ritz-Carlton over there that's like half an hour or I guess like 40 minutes-ish away from like Lisbon itself. I did end up going into Lisbon, which is really cool. But I had to fly into Lisbon to get over to this wedding. So originally, as soon as I figured out when the dates were, I booked it so far in advance with Avianca Life Miles, and it was 35,000 Avianca Life Miles. This used to be a sweet spot that's no longer available, but you were able to book TAP Air Portugal in business class from New York, JFK, over to Lisbon. Now, I had a flight credit with JetBlue because of something where they delayed my flight like an insane amount of time. So I was able to get myself, use that flight credit from LA over to New York for I think it was like $140-ish. I think I had a $150 credit. So it worked out. So I was like, cool, I'm going to be able to get this business class over to Lisbon and do it with TAP Portugal, an airline that I've never flown before. A week before the wedding, the bride texts me asking me when I'm arriving because she was trying to coordinate if there's a way that people can all just use Ubers to get over to the hotel without needing to have everyone just take single Ubers. So I said, I'm coming in on this day. So I told her the day I was coming in. And then I went to just I hadn't looked at my itinerary for a bit. I went and looked at it and I go, this says the next day. And I didn't know why it was saying the next day after when I actually booked it. It seemed kind of confusing. So I went over to my actual booking that I did with Avianca because I thought maybe I messed it up. I mean, I've read about people who booked hotels and they ended up booking it for the next day. And when they get to the hotel, they don't have a booking there and they realize that they messed up on the actual days. I thought maybe I made that mistake. It was last year that I booked it. Like middle of last year that I booked it. So then I went to the Avianca booking and I go, no, I didn't even make the mistake. I saw it. I booked it on the correct day. I called up TAP Portugal. They told me that they changed it and I confirmed that I was okay with it, which is not accurate. I had no idea. No one called me. There was no message. There was no nothing. There was no email. This was a week before the wedding. And I was like, no, I don't want that. Can you get me back on the other flight? They said, we can't do it. You booked it through a partner. You're going to have to contact the partner. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I booked it for 35,000 points. It's going to cost me more points. They're probably going to end up asking. They're not going to be able to switch everything, resolve it. I call up Avianca, which is usually notorious for having not the greatest of customer service, but they actually were super chill. They're like, oh yeah, it says that you confirmed the change of dates. And I was like, no, I didn't. They said, okay, well, we'll book you with a different business class. And we're not going to ask you for any additional points or any additional cash or anything like that. So I said, great, but you're going to have to stop somewhere else. So I think they were saying, like, I want to say they might have said Brussels Air. And then they also were like, what do you think about Swiss Air? And I was, okay, well, I'll do Swiss Air. Yeah, I've never flown with them before. And actually the good thing about it was with the TAP Portugal, because both of these flights were overnight, I would have arrived at like 7 a.m. or somewhere near there. So when I got to the hotel, I wouldn't have been able to check into my room because they would have been like, yeah, you're like, I don't know, 6 hours early or something like that. So it was actually, I was like, okay, well, if I end up going to Switzerland, then I can go over to Switzerland, stay in the lounge. And by the time I am getting the other connecting flight, then when I get over to Lisbon and get over to the hotel, I'm going to be at the exact time I'm supposed to be checking in anyways. So I took that. They charged me no additional points. I'm really happy I was able to do that. Now, when it comes to Swiss Air, I hear a lot of times people will say things are dated all the time. You know, they're always saying this is dated. And I feel like it gets kind of overused in some contexts just because things aren't like the absolute newest. People say things are dated, but this thing is definitely dated. Like when you're there, you're looking at the product going, okay, this is like I remember my entertainment system was tiny. So I flew from LAX over to JFK in JetBlue economy, and my screen and the clarity of the screen was bigger and better than what I had in Swiss Air's business class. Now, this isn't to say that I dislike Swiss Air's business class. It's just to say that this is definitely a product to where when I look at it, I go, okay, this is when people are saying dated, this is specifically what they mean. Like you can tell that this is a business class product that has seen way better days, and almost every other business class product you're going to be going in is going to look like it's more modern than this one. Um, there wasn't a ton of film options. The good thing was there was an overnight flight, so all I really needed was just some sleep. And the chair was actually, or the seat was actually comfortable, especially when I went to bed mode. The flight attendants were really professional, nice. The food was fine. So I would say that business class product is not something that I would seek out. It's not something I would seek out, but it's not something that I would highly avoid. So if that's the only way I can get over to Europe, and that's a deal I can fly with redeeming like Air Canada miles or something like that, then if that's the deal, then I'll be like, okay, fine. So it's not like, but when I compare it to other business class products that I've done, looking to go over to Europe, like I would put Iberia business class over that, KLM, Air France. I don't really like American Airlines business class, so I would put this over American Airlines business class. But compared to the other products, yeah, this thing it's on the lower end for me for sure. The staff was really good though, and I also like the lounge in Switzerland where you can go outside and they actually have like binoculars. You can go look at all the planes. So to me, that was actually really, really cool. But when it came to the actual, just like the way that it was definitely definitely what you consider a dated product. But I did actually end up getting like that. What is it? 12K. I actually forget exactly what, or maybe it's 14K. My seat that I had, it was actually like one of the better seats that you get. It's not necessarily a throne seat, but it's kind of like having one in the corner. So I did actually have one of the better seats, which was good. Because some of them, I think they actually have two. So, but yeah, it's a product that I'm not going to recommend to anyone, but it's a product that I'm not going to tell people that they get to go, ooh, I would try to, unless that's the only thing you got, So, yeah, that's been kind of like my feelings about it. So I have here, I already have that on here where I say entertainment system was not the greatest. So I'm going to jump back over here before I get into that. Sorry. So where am I at? Trying to see. Condor. The Condor flights are hard to find at 70K. No, then we think so? No, I see them everywhere. So if you fly from the West Coast, there is Condor flights 70K to get. I'm talking about there's 4 seats. There is many seats. And people who care about cents per point, what I've noticed is that Condor has actually been increasing the cost of their flight. I think because they've come out with a better business class product as compared to what it was previously. Because there were some times where you could see Condor business class flights for like $1,500 from the US over to, so that's like a solid deal. I mean, that's like JetBlue prices. Actually, JetBlue sometimes even charge more than that. So, but now I've been seeing that when you start to look at getting like the actual flex and the different, now it's going closer to like 2,600. So people who do care about cents per point, it is increasing when it comes. To me, I'm just like, I get to have 11 hours in lay flat bed for 70,000 points. Would I like something better? Sure, but if that's my option, then I would take that. But no, I've noticed that. Check out for San Fran. Check San Fran. Check. Yeah, there's different spots. If you end up looking, you should be able to see I've seen quite a bit of availability. And I mainly look because my brother lives out in Germany. So if I'm looking to go visit out there to go see him, I've noticed that one of the flights is to go over to Frankfurt. So yeah, I've noticed them to not be that hard. What did I think of the Park Hyatt Vienna? The Park Hyatt Vienna. So I'm gonna get okay. So I'll let me go back over to the banner and I'll get over to that. So let's see, where was I? So the wedding that I went to. So I went to the wedding in Portugal, stayed at the Ritz-Carlton. This is actually where the wedding was at. It was at a Ritz-Carlton. And I was able to book this I got the Marriott business card last year, got 50K certs, was able to book that, which was fantastic. It was like over 400 euros a night, which was something I really did not want to have to pay. So I was very, very thankful for that. And I got to tell you, so this property, if you like to golf, there was tons of great golf there. The hotel itself, I remember thinking like, okay, this hotel is fine. It didn't blow me away as you walk in or anything like that. But the staff was like next level. It was just absolutely insane. The like during the wedding, if you had a drink and you took a sip, there'd be someone who would run over and just fill up the rest of your glass. So you couldn't even, it was just ridiculous. This property was like, my buddy whose wedding I went to, I remember thinking like, man, this guy's become a fancy pants as we've moved and he's got a family and everything going on like that, going over to Ritz-Carlton in Portugal. But I'm like, if I could have a wedding, it would have been like that. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. It was just incredible. So I absolutely loved that property. Then after I was done with that, I was just there for like a couple of days. I decided to go throughout Europe for like a week, and then I went over to the Park Hyatt in Vienna while out there. And the Park Hyatt in Vienna, the only gripe I have about the property was like, I'm thinking when I'm going to go back to Vienna because this property is fantastic. So out of the Park Hyatts I've been to, or just out of the properties I've been to, this is one of the better properties I've been to. So going back over to, sorry about that. Who said that? M2K. Going back over to your question, what did I think of the Park Hyatt Vienna? I thought the property was fantastic. I got upgraded to a junior suite, which was great. The location of the property is just phenomenal. One of the things that they did that was really cool was there's this really, I guess, famous bakery that's there, and people are waiting in line there for like, it seems like a long time, maybe even hours. There's like, you go up to it and the line is just huge. And everyone says you have to go to this place. This is where like really famous people, I think they said like Sigmund Freud and all these different people used to go there and have intellectual conversations and all these different things many, many years ago. So it's really, really famous. The Park Hyatt has a partnership with this bakery. So I guess it's a bakery, but it's like a restaurant. So it's not just specifically baked goods. You can go in there and actually have meals and things like that. So they told me that, and they go, if you want to go over there, just let me know when you want to go and we'll set it up. So before my flight or like when I was actually about to like leave, I was going to let me see if I can get over there. I was like, hey, can I get over to that bakery? They go, yeah, what time do you want to go? I was like, I want to go right now. Is it available? They go, we could check. And then they call me back. They go, you got 6 minutes to go over there. They're going to have a table open. And I go over there. There's just a massive line of people waiting. And I just cut past all these people and they go, I'm like, yeah, I'm with the Park Hyatt. And they go, yeah, you're right over here. And that's just something that's like incredible about going to Park Hyatts. I had a similar experience like that in the Park Hyatt in Tokyo, where it's like just being able to really feel like a VIP. That's something that's just complete VIP service. So I love that. The spa at the Park Hyatt in Vienna, so it's like the pool and like just the sauna, all that is just incredible. So they turned the bank, so the building that used to be a bank, and they turned the bank vault into a pool. And it's one of the most gorgeous pools you'll ever see, especially for like indoor pool. Probably the most gorgeous indoor pool I've ever seen. So yes, I really like that property. And as I said, maybe like the downside that I was thinking to myself after I was leaving was like, I want to stay here again, but Vienna might be one and done. Not that Vienna was bad. It's just I don't know, unless I start dating some Austrian woman. I'm thinking I don't know when I'm ever going to go back to Vienna. So, yeah. But if it comes to like, hey, if you have never been to Vienna, if you've never been to Austria and you want to go check that place out and you have the ability to stay at that property, 100%. It was incredible. It was a fantastic, absolutely fantastic property. I love that one. So that's just getting back to yours. But yeah, so then I went and then let's see. So whenever that was after Portugal, and then flying back home. This kind of gets into the main topic of the video, which I'm now getting into at 48 minutes in, which is my way that I flew back home. So what happened was that I found a Air France flight to fly back home in business class, and I did some transfer over to Air France before they started doing some things with their program. And I had I don't have a ton of Air France miles, but I had I think near 80,000 Air France miles. And I found a business class flight with their new business class going from Paris over to Dallas Fort Worth. So I guess hit the thumbs up button. We got the thing popping on the screen. So I ended up booking the Paris over to Dallas Fort Worth in business class. And when I ended up booking that, I had that booked up. And then I saw that a flight opened up to fly from Paris over to LAX with Alaskan Airlines miles. And they have a partnership with Air Tahiti, which I've never flown before. It's not going to be as good as something like Air France business class. But what it was going to be a direct flight over to LAX. So I actually ended up booking that. I didn't end up canceling my Air France flight because I was like, well, do I want to? First, I was like, do I want to try this? And I was like, honestly, I just want to get directly home. Usually when I want to fly home, I just give me a direct one. I can go there in a convoluted way, but a lot of times I go home. I just want to be home. But then what ended up popping in my head was that I don't want to have these Air France miles because they've made it significantly harder to find award availability. and I just don't want to have them sitting around. So because of that, I would rather redeem my Air France miles than my Alaskan Airlines miles. So let me get rid of my Air France miles, even though I needed to book another flight from Dallas Fort Worth over to LA. That was like, I think it was like $80 or something like that. But then because of that, I don't have to worry about, I mean, I have like 10,000 Air France miles, but I don't really need to worry about Air France miles really that much anymore. Now I can just grab a bunch of those 70,000 Alaskan miles and maybe use it for Starlux or use it for Condor or use it for Japan Airlines or just use it for American Airlines flights or Alaskan Airlines flights throughout the US. So I decided to cancel because it's $12 to cancel the Air Tahiti flight with Alaskan Airlines miles. So I decided to cancel that and actually do the harder flight, not harder, the more stops and longer flight, because of the fact that I would just rather get rid of the miles that I found to be less valuable. So that was kind of the main topic of this live was, what do you all feel about that? If you have miles with programs out there, do you try to get rid of the ones that, do you want to just go for the best deals that are out there? Or are there times you're like, let me try to figure out a way to get rid of these? I know that Douglas in his, I think it was his last live he had out there where he redeemed his, and although he didn't do it for like the best value, he just kind of wanted to get rid of them. For me, I'm still getting great value. I got business class at 60,000 with the new Air France business class. I have the bulkhead seat in 1A. If you can book 1A with the bulkhead seat with Air France, it is, I'm trying to think. Yes, I think I can confidently say that that's the best way to fly from Europe in business class over to the US. There's not a better way. The bulkhead seat in 1A with Air France gives you the amount of space of a first class product. And it didn't cost any additional points, any additional taxes and fees. I was just able to click it. And I think usually you do have to spend more if you would like pay cash or something like that. But because I just redeemed it with miles, it didn't cost anything additional. That thing was absolutely incredible with the amount of space. The entertainment system is fantastic. I can't think of, I mean, maybe someone would say that you could do, Emirates going over to different places in Europe. We could do business class with that. I don't even know if that product would get up to, just because of how much space and the way everything's set up there. Yes, on the A380, it'd be cool to have like the bar and everything like that. But, oh, hold on. I do not. Okay, so I just realized that my computer might be dying. I actually don't have it charged, or I don't have it plugged in, which I thought I did, but apparently I don't. So in a few seconds, I will actually need to do that. But no, the bulkhead seat on Air France on their newest product, on their A350s, is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend anyone who can book that to book that. But I do want to know what people's thoughts are when it comes to redeeming points with a program that just because you find the points to be less valuable. That ends up being like the main thing I want to talk about. Like, what do people think of Flying Blue Miles? Are Flying Blue Miles still worth it? Because when I look at Flying Blue Miles, I'm just seeing them as being like, they're just, when they first dropped their price to 50,000, they were awesome. And then they had all this award availability. And then they started getting rid of all the award availability. It all kind of went away. And I thought it was because, well, maybe just people are booking up because the deals are so good. And then they bumped it up to 60,000. And then they still didn't have award availability really out there. And I was just fortunate enough to be able to find this one seat during the time I happened to be going to this wedding, because yeah, it's really slim pickings right now. So if you guys could just wait for 1 second, I do need to grab my charger. I thought I had my charger. I thought I had it plugged in, but it's actually in the other room. So drop your comments down below as I just hop over. Hold on 1 second. Alrighty. This is what happens when you go live. You got to deal with things like this. Okay, let's see the comments over here. So going back, what I think of the Park Hyatt. So around the world, did JFK, Geneva to Lisbon to Istanbul to Bangkok to Taipei to Seoul, then to Haneda, and then back to San Fran for 125,000. That is freaking awesome. Yes, that is awesome. That is the power of that around the world that that unfortunately is going to be going away in, what is it, like 2 months now. So yeah, but Yeah, that's it's incredible to think that being able to book all of those flights for just 125,000 points to where, I mean, I booked like Japan Airlines first class for near about this. I mean, I did it with the transfer bonus, but near about the same amount of points. If you look at something like just booking first class with uh, Cathay Pacific, it's going to end up being the exact same amount of points. So yeah, that ends up being great. So did I get the throne seat with Swiss Air? No, I got a seat that was in the corner. So the throne seat, they're asking for more money. So they actually did want more if you wanted a throne seat. I guess I could have got, it was a full cabin. Yes, I think you can be able to choose it if it's like 24 hours or so before, but it was a full cabin. I had this seat that was in the corner, and all the way back in the right corner. So from what I've read, is that was the other best option to be able to choose in business class. But no, I did not get the throne seat, and you do have to pay more to get that with their product. No, sir. Oh, I guess he's answering. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. Let's see. I have JFK Lisbon flight 4 weeks on tap. Booked a long time ago. After your story, I need to. Yes, please do so. Here's the thing is, like, as annoyed as I was by that, this isn't the first time that's happened with programs. I booked a Air France flight that Air France canceled. No notice. I forget why I was even looking. I think I was looking for someone else. And then as I was looking for someone else, I was like, don't I have a flight with Air France? And then I was just like, that's kind of strange. And then I went in and then I called him. I was like, hey, what happened to my flight? Like, oh yeah, we canceled your flight. And I was like, well, why there's no one's telling me this information? And they go, yeah, you can rebook it. And they were really cool about it. They let me choose any time on that exact same day. So I actually got a better time to be able to fly with it. But this was last year. But I remember just being like, okay, thanks. But yeah, if I didn't look before, it would have been. So for me, I have things where I get email updates and have stuff where like Japan Airlines will be like, there's a change to your flight. And you look at the change and it's like 5 minutes. And you're like, okay, they're telling me 5 minutes of a change. And some of these other programs are not even going to tell you if your entire flight is canceled or moved to a completely different day. So I don't know. I don't know how to navigate not having that happen. But it just does. It happens. You have to keep on keeping. If you have a lot of flights, I guess you just got to keep on looking to see if they moved it to a different day. I know that Douglas, for his flight he was doing with Condor, I don't know if he just saw it from looking at it or if he saw it from, because I know that they changed up his whole thing that he had, or if he actually got informed by it. But yeah, some of these other ones, people, the airlines just have not informed me. All of a sudden I go check and the next thing I know it's just complete change. So definitely always keep on checking onto your airlines to make sure. Flying Swiss Air Geneva with your wife and son, was worried about having a toddler in business class, but hoping it will be okay if he contained in a row with 2 seats. Fingers crossed. Yeah, I don't think that I've seen toddlers in business class. I'm one of the people where I have noise canceling headphones. It doesn't, like, when I flew from Dallas Fort Worth over to LA coming back from this trip, there was a, I don't know, 1-year-old who was seated right beside me. He was just like staring at me the whole time. It was just kind of funny. But I have noise canceling headphones. I'm not even, so I know some people get bothered by it. I think if the kid's like maybe running around, but I'm one of the few where I barely get bothered by the kids because I think just because I have headphones, so I can barely hear anything. But yeah, you know your child better. I don't know if your child's flown a lot, how they're going to feel for this long of a flight. But hopefully, I think it'll be okay. So yeah, Eric So says, have you stayed at the Park High London? No, that property's pretty brand new. I think it opened up end of last year, if I remember correctly. Or what do you think of the property and London in general? So London, I went to London a few years ago. I enjoyed London. London was a place that, out of all the places I've been, I will say that like the negative is I think it's the most expensive place when it comes to like how much money I spent when I was there. So London's not cheap. I do like that there's one of the few countries I've been to where when you're riding the public transportation, you can just grab onto your credit card and use that to tap, versus many of the places that you travel to, you have to go buy a card and then use that card to fill it up with some type of money and then go use that. And it starts to become a little bit of a pain in the butt. So I don't really like having to do that in many different places, but London was fantastic to just have your credit card. If you have a Chase Sapphire Preferred, you just deet and you go through, and then when you check out, you just click it again, and it knows where you went in and where you're coming out. So that's fantastic. That's one thing I liked about London a lot. Borough Market was really cool. That was a place where some of the food that I liked. There was a few places I ate that I did not like out there. So I would say that I wasn't the biggest fan of the food that I was eating in London as a whole. I did like there was some good Indian food out there, so that's something that was good. But the Park Hyatt London, I stay at the Andaz in London, and that thing is awesome because it's right near the Tube, which is their train system or subway system. And I really like that property. The property was really cool. I'm a big Andaz fan and as a whole. But the Park Hyatt, I think it's a category 7 right now, if I remember correctly. So check it out. It's right on like the River Thames. I would recommend the Andaz, but I haven't actually stayed at the Park Hyatt. From what I've seen from it, it looks like a fine hotel. But it's pretty darn. I think it's less than a year old. So time will tell what people's actual full thoughts on that is. I stranded IHG points, which I used to stay at Intercontinental string in Tokyo, even though better properties were available. Yeah, that's kind of what it ends up being. It's like, okay, how do I end up getting rid of these points? So that's kind of what it ended up being for me with the Air France point, because I started to get a little bit nervous of when am I even going to use these? Because I was noticing that the availability was becoming less, and then I was just like, okay, the availability is coming less. I don't know when I'm going to be trying to get over to Paris, or even, I can maybe go over to Paris to get over to Frankfurt, taking a train to go see my brother. But just seeing kind of where Air France points are going, I don't want to have any of them. So the ability to be able to just use them, and then if I see a transfer bonus, take advantage of them when I do end up seeing a deal, fine. But it's very similar to you with I think with hotels. I still understand what you're saying there. Yeah, because honestly, it's cool. At least you got to stay at Intercontinental. Although IHG points, funny enough, as you're bringing this up, they just had a pretty big, from what I've seen, devaluation. I have barely ever stayed at an IHG property, but from what I've seen, they've made a lot of their award bookings even more expensive. So it's actually good that you did use them, because you didn't have to deal with that devaluation that could have happened. Park Hyatt London is priced well, but looks a little far outside the city or outside the center of town. The Scotland Yard is in a great location, but small rooms. Yeah. I think the Scotland Yard, didn't that just move up to being a category 7 as well, which is crazy, because that makes me think that the Park Hyatt's going to move up, because I might have made a video on this. I definitely have written something about it. Maybe I was preparing a video, but it's why is it that the Park Hyatt is the same price point as other properties that are there also as a category 7? Park Hyatt's supposed to be their best. It's rare you're going to see a Ritz-Carlton that's going to be the same price point as a JW Marriott when it comes to how many points you end up seeing required. So thanks for sharing about London. My wife and I are celebrating our anniversary in the Park Hyatt. Oh, awesome. Yeah, it's going to end up being great. And then London, they're probably going to complain about how hot it is out there, because they always complain about how hot and they don't really have a lot of AC, but you're going to have AC in your hotel rooms. You're not going to have to worry about that. Can't wait for the Waldorf to open in London. Okay, nice. I actually don't know much about that, so that ends up being cool. I knew the only Waldorf I was thinking about opening was the one in New York. So I know that they're talking about that one. That's been kind of news. So let's see here. Now, when I was in Dallas-Fort Worth, I was able to check out the Capital One Lounge at Dallas-Fort Worth. And I didn't want to talk about that because I think that this lounge is fantastic. This is one of the, this lounge is better than, so I think it might have been a Party Pass lounge as well, but when I was in New York flying over to Switzerland for the Swiss business class, I was in the Lufthansa business class lounge. I was also in the Turkish. I just kind of went through it and went over to Lufthansa. And this Capital One Lounge at Dallas-Fort Worth is better than both of those. The only problem with this one was there was a long wait. Now, I just got off the plane, and honestly, I was talking to my grandma on the phone, and I didn't care about waiting because I was just kind of all right, I'll just go sit over here, and I was just chatting with her. But I've seen people very angry that they weren't. There was one guy who was like, he was like pointing at the woman in her face and stuff like that. And he was like, I'm going to cancel my car. You guys aren't going to let me in. I'm paying all this money for this card. And she's just some front desk employee. I don't know why he's yelling at her. But when I got into the lounge, I was like, not only was there great views of the of everything out there, it was a great bar. So you were able to see all the planes, great bar. But then the food was so good. So I remember I was going over and I was like, wow, now, so you grab all these like little containers and you put them on this tray. There was other times where I was actually supposed to visit Capital One Lounge, but it was like on connecting flights. And every single time I've never even had time to go in. So I've always just taken off and wasn't even been able to do it. So it's actually the first time I got to be able to do it. And I was very much impressed from what it was. This lounge, in my opinion, I can't think of a Centurion lounge that I've been to that was better than this. Like, I mean, I go to the one in LAX frequently. It's definitely not better. I guess maybe you could say the one in JFK, but JFK as a whole, the way the airport is set up is such a mess. I can't stand that airport. It's my least favorite airport in the world. Or it's up there. Either that or Charles de Gaulle. It annoys me just because it's mayhem there as well. But yeah, I don't like JFK. I try to even like avoid not flying out of there if I can sometimes. But nothing's really connected, so that ends up being an issue. So if you were flying with JetBlue, you wouldn't be able to go over to the Centurion Lounge because it's just not. You have to go out of security and go back through. It's a huge pain in the butt. But the Capital One in Dallas Fort Worth, and I remember after getting the food and thinking, wow, this is good, and this food was really good. I didn't even realize that on the other side there was a whole nother section of food until like right before I was going to leave, and I just grabbed like some things, had a little bit of that, and then right when I actually did leave, I don't even know if I was supposed to do this. But I went over to the grab and go section and I grabbed some stuff and I took it with me. I got into the plane, took the American Airlines flight back to LA. And when I got home, I had some of the grab and go food at home and it was good. And I was like, wow, this is like they just don't have enough of the lounges, but if all of their lounges are like that, that is a good lounge. That is a very, very, very good lounge. It's better than I've been to Chase Sapphire Reserve or the Sapphire lounges. I've been to many different American Express lounges or Centurion lounges, and this Capital One lounge, other than maybe the Centurion lounge JFK, like, yeah, this one's better than them. It was really, really good. I think also I like the one in San Fran, the Centurion lounge San Fran, if I remember correctly, is actually pretty good. But I don't know how many other people have been to that, but that is a nice lounge. Let's see here. Wong Wei Travels. What's going on? So he says, let's see. To answer your question, I like going for deals. So bonuses, yep. But I try to use points that are easy to burn. Avios versus harder airlines to fly, i.e. I used Finn Air to book JL from Haneda over to, is that Beijing, I think is what it is, versus AA in Alaska. Yeah, well, I'd understand that because, I guess if I saw them both available at the same time, I'd probably end up using my American Airlines miles. But if I'm trying to book it farther in advance, then I would understand using something such as like Finnair because you're going to see the availability earlier. So I could do an entire different video. I'm not going to do it to get fully into in this video, but there's kind of like the topic of the harder to earn, easier to burn. Although those ones are easier to burn, when you take advantage of like the transfer bonuses, the deals actually start to become very close. One of the things that I'm noticing is like when I'm trying to book Japan Airlines, I wouldn't do it with Alaska Miles anymore because a lot of the deals are, if I include a transfer bonus over to British Airways, which is what I've transferred to any Avios, it's always been, I think the lowest is a 25% transfer bonus, then the deal is essentially like the same as what it would end up being for Alaska Airlines to book a lot of these different flights. If you wanted to book the business class or with Japan Airlines, so it's kind of like, why am I even using Alaskan? I guess because the cancellation fee ends up being $12.50 versus $30. But the good thing now is that you have the ability to transfer over to them. But I see what you're saying. Yeah. Let's see. So Preach JP. Fantastic. Yes, the lounge, Capital One Lounge is fantastic. There wasn't a line when I went. However, the line for the restrooms were crazy the whole time. Small complaint, all things considered. Yeah. For me, if I was there and I just really was trying to hurry up and get into the lounge, then I would have been annoyed too. But I just was fortunate that I just got off the plane I was already kind of full. I was tired, got a call, and then I was just talking to my grandma, so it wasn't really that big of a deal for me. But yeah, the guys, there's been a few times where I've seen people just like overly angry at like in public and in airports. It's not something I don't think you'll ever see me do. I'll just like walk away. Okay, whatever. But the guy there was many different, I would say annoyed. And there was one guy who was angry, literally pointing at the woman. But the lounge is fantastic. Capital One, if you were flying out of Dallas Fort Worth and you have the ability to access that lounge, I would say access it as many times as you can, because you are going to enjoy the food. You are going to enjoy the drinks. You're going to enjoy everything. There was one little downside I'll say about it, where the way that the seats were aligned, it was a small thing because it wasn't everywhere. There was one spot where the way the seats were aligned to where the seats were back to back, and if I sat back and there was a woman over here, she sat back, our heads would hit each other. So it didn't make any sense to have those seats connected unless we're both going to sit like this, which could happen. Not everyone needs to lean back like this, but if I have a nice chair where I'm going to be comfortable and be leaning back, I want to be able to do that, and knowing that my head could be hitting into the other person's head. So I remember that was like the first chair I sat, it was like that. But then the next one I went to, there wasn't seats that were back to back, so it wasn't a problem. But that was kind of something I thought was a little weird of how that was set up. You think that would at least just space it, it would give it a few more inches to can't end up being a problem. But other than that, loved it. Just outlets everywhere, fantastic, absolutely fantastic lounge. Honestly, it was so good to the point where I was like, oh, this annual fee is going to be jumping up because these lounges, this is way too good of a lounge, way too good of a lounge. I mean, it's literally better than some business class lounges I've been to. Not like all of them, but I was highly surprised by that. Where are you going next? So if you want to check that out, check me out on Instagram. You see me on Instagram. I'll be traveling to, I post stuff on Instagram with myself traveling. So that ends up being, but my next trip's over to Asia. So I'll just put it at that. That's my next one. So it should end up being cool. Yeah, so it's a little bit away. To sum up, I save up my Alaska Air miles to book the Korean Air on the 747 last month. Nice. Harder airline to book miles with. Only, yes, I was actually going to say, well, Virgin Atlantic you can have booking that with. Funny enough, because I've literally been looking for that for next year. So I've been timing out, trying to book, not specifically a 747. I don't know which route, if you could write in which route the 747 does it at, that end up being great. And if it's LA, that's actually cool, but I don't think it does that. I think what I saw was that there's the Korean Air, but I think it is in a 2-2, but I have a lot of Virgin Atlantic miles. So my Virgin Atlantic miles, I took advantage of a transfer bonus, and I have just a lot of them. And I have been trying to use those, not because I don't like them, because I've actually gotten insane value for my Virgin Atlantic miles, but just because since I have so many, I'd rather not try to transfer over to some of these different transfer partners. And I'm trying to use those to book the Korean Air flight that I see. But I was seeing that it was a 2-2 configuration for, I think, the A380. So I don't know if the 747 has a different configuration. If you know, long way, please let me know that. JP is going to China or Vietnam. Could be right. Could be right. Let's see. I flew Korean Air last month on the 747. You're right. I'm going to Vietnam. Good guess. Good guess, Lynn. I flew Korean Air last month on the 747 to Atlanta, but it was retired. Oh, okay. Was it okay? Price with the 777. Korean Air is retiring, selling their 747. Okay, yeah. I mean, most airlines are. There's very few. I was actually hoping when I did Lufthansa, I did end up flying on the A380, which is cool because honestly, it's not as easy to get to be able to fly it when you're flying from the US. But when I was flying with Lufthansa in the first class, I was hoping I was going to be able to do the 747, but they ended up doing the A380. So, but hopefully, from what it's seeming like, I'm probably not going to be flying on the 747. Maybe, I don't know if ever, but I guess if I get lucky, if I go visit my brother and I see that available, then it'd be cool. But we'll be in Vietnam for Christmas. I can be your tour guide. That's awesome. Yeah. Vietnam it's a place that I've been looking at. Yeah, it's a place that I've been looking at, and I'm excited to do it. It's funny because I don't know. For a minute, I was looking at like Thailand, and a lot of people were telling, I see so many people tell me Thailand. I don't know what it is, but I don't have like a huge desire to do Thailand. It's funny enough that I guess, well, not funny enough, but I guess it's interesting. I actually haven't done Thailand yet, but I know so many people who've been there, and I'm kind of like, well, maybe I should go because everyone's going there. But there's certain things where I kind of look at and I see things with history, and that's kind of what made me go, let me do Viet, because I was thinking maybe I could do Vietnam and Thailand. And I'm not gonna be there for that long. So I was like, you know what, let me just do Vietnam. And I just kind of interested about the different history of with the French, with the Americans, how the North is different than like going to Hanoi versus Ho Chi Minh City. So all that stuff to me was really fascinating and something that I was kind of really looking into. So because of that, I was like, you know what, I'll do that. So yeah, let's see. What's your experience on booking stopovers? Booked winter 2026. You booked winter 2026. I don't know how you could have already booked that. Well, I guess unless you're talking about like January. Okay, that makes sense. No, sorry, I'm thinking later on in the year. Dallas Fort Worth TBE to okay. Did Air Canada stopover versus separate flight was 80. Yeah. So I've done it with Alaskan. I've done it with Alaskan's one I've done it with multiple times, so that's the one that I'm the most comfortable with. It's really easy to be able to book on their website. Same thing with Air Canada, although sometimes Air Canada has errors with it when I've had like trying to book it on their site. And I think you need to call them in because I can see that there's things that I could book, and if I just call them, they can make it work. Actually, I think I've actually done that with Alaskan too. So maybe I'm just a dummy when it comes to doing it on the website. But yeah, if you can take advantage of the stopovers, like I did it with Fiji Airways, I booked to stop over in Fiji, and I made it to get over to, it's not the same price, but to get over to Sydney, Australia, it was only 55,000 points at the time. I forget what the devaluation, what the price is right now, but yeah, so if you can take advantage of them, it just ends up being such a great deal to do it. I would rather do it with something like Alaska because of the ability to be able to change things easier, whereas with Air Canada, it's kind of expensive. Actually, I don't know exactly what their change fee is. I just know their cancellation fees. It's a little over $100. So yeah. But wait, hold on. Let me read here. You said versus flight was 87,000 plus 30,000. Yeah. So obviously, if you did the second one, that ends up being another 30,000. But there actually has some times where I've been looking at, like I was looking at booking a Air Canada. I was looking at booking with Air Canada miles to do something like EVA Air, and then I was seeing that I could book for 87,500. But then I was thinking, well, I was finding it challenging to find the connection flight or trying to do the stopover. And then I was like, well, you know what? I could just do where if I decided to, I could book with Alaska miles, end up being 15,000 points. So in total, end up costing me 90,000 points, and I could do Starlux and do it like a little bit separate. So it's not exactly the same. But it would cost me a little bit more, but at the same time, it would end up being easier to get the exact times I would want. So the stopovers there, they do make sense. But sometimes it's like, okay, convenient factor of being able to find it, because sometimes when you're trying to, if it's not open and you're trying to book the farthest part out, if that makes any sense to you. So for example, like if I'm like, okay, the farthest date out ends up being April 1st of next year, then if I want to just book that right now and get that locked in, when I try to add it in later, it ends up being an issue. So just booking in a Starlux business class flight from Taipei instead of doing EVA Air the entire way and then just staying time in Taipei, then I could be able to do that for an additional couple thousand points. Yeah. Whereas versus if you can find it all as the time you're booking, then it ends up working out easier. But yeah, let's see here. Son says IHG has a big footprint in Vietnam. 6 cents. Okay. Region Phuket. Okay. Okay. Cool. Nice. Intercontinental Da Nang. Yeah, I actually have someone I got all these like destination weddings people inviting me to, but someone invited me to a wedding in Da Nang. So we'll see. I'm not entirely sure if I'm gonna be able to get over to that next year, but if I can, it end up being cool to get over to Da Nang. I think it's actually going to be at the Hyatt though, which I got Hyatt points, which is great. But yeah. Vietnam also interests me. This is Lin saying but you need a visa. Here, it's the cheapest country in the world. You need a visa? I gotta look into that then. I didn't know you needed a visa. I thought you automatically get a, you can get right in. But okay, if you need a visa, then something I'll look into. GP was born an Asian in a previous life. Yeah. Well, I mean, so here's the thing. It's like, I kind of I forget who I was talking to about it, but it's like I've had a good time in Europe. But man, I've been liking visiting different countries in Asia a little bit more. Like I've just been liking going to like Japan is just my favorite place to visit. And I've been looking even to like hoping to get that trip again later in the year. And then but I really liked going to Malaysia. I was only there for a very short amount of time, but I went over to Kuala Lumpur. I thought that place was awesome. I did not, if anyone saw my video, I did not have the greatest time in Bali. I got violently ill, but yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I did like Prague in Europe. I like Prague. I like Istanbul. I think those are some really cool places over in Europe that aren't overly expensive, but are really fun. And have fantastic food, or at least Istanbul has fantastic food. Prague's food was okay. But also Lisbon, honestly, the food in Lisbon was really good, and Lisbon wasn't too expensive either. It's interesting when you go to these places and you go and you get a beer that's €250. I think that's what I was spending in Lisbon, or maybe it was $350, something like that. And then you come to LA and you're getting a beer and it's $8-9, and it's like, how is it that the beer there is better and it's a third of the cost? So yeah. But yeah, I do like visiting the Asian countries. Asian countries are a ton of fun to go through. Let's see. Both of my flights are EVA Air, J, awesome. So 777 and 787 via Air Canada. Nice. Yeah. Air Canada is the way to go about booking with them. And then when it came to the earlier, you were talking about booking Korean Air with Alaska Miles. If you can take advantage of the transfer bonus, then it makes more sense to book it with Virgin Atlantic, just because I think Virgin Atlantic charges $85,000, as you said, versus I can't remember what was it, $75,000 with Alaskan. So if you can get a 30% transfer bonus, it drops that down pretty good. But then the cancellation fee is higher, so kind of have to do that. Okay, so you do need a visa. Good. So if I do want to go to the wedding or for my trip that's coming up in a few months, then I will make sure to get that visa. So thank you all. I mean, I always like look into these things before, but at the time of booking, I didn't think any of this. So that's good to know. If you decide to go back to Kuala Lumpur, how long would you stay? Honestly, if I go back to Kuala Lumpur, it's going to be, I don't know exactly how long I'll be in specifically Kuala Lumpur, but I want to go to different parts of Malaysia. So I also have a friend after I came back where I was telling him how much I loved it there, and he actually is Malaysian. So I didn't even know that, because I guess he did most of his like primary school there, and then he came over to here, and I think he did college and everything over here. But he was telling me there's different beaches to go to over there, so different places. So I would probably do Kuala Lumpur for maybe 4 or 5 days, and then or somewhere near there, and then maybe go to one of the beach places for another 2 or 3 days. So it would end up being somewhere near like a week as a whole in the entire place. He was telling me some other place up north, but I can't remember what the name was. But I was just seeing some of the places where I look at the hotels from using points, whether it be Hilton or Hyatt points, and I was seeing where the beaches were, different things like that. But the Grand Hyatt in Kuala Lumpur, especially if you use a Suite Upgrade Award certificate, this room is insane. You will feel like a king at this property. So you go really high up, you get this just massive room. The food there, so I was in Singapore before that, and Singapore is cool, but the difference between Kuala Lumpur and Singapore is that it costs a tenth of the cost, and honestly, it's kind of similar. So I was like, well, it's pretty similar, but instead of me spending $30 for something, it costs $3. Like I remember just taking the Grab over there, and the Grab was ridiculously cheap going from the airport over to my hotel. Whereas in Singapore, it cost, I mean, once saying it was like outrageous, but it was significant. It was compared to the Grab, it was significantly more expensive. And Grab in Kuala Lumpur. So if you've ever been to Singapore and you enjoy Singapore, jump over to Kuala Lumpur, and it's going to be very similar, but for a tenth, maybe near there, an eighth of the cost. So that's really what I liked about it so much. Let's see here. TPE is good alternative to Japan. Cheaper, good metro, good food, but weather is a bit hotter and humid. Yeah. And the metro actually is really good there. The metro was really good there. Yeah, it was actually really easy to use. I remember I messed it up. So when I went from Japan over to Taipei, and when I went over to Taipei, and I just said earlier in the video, you have to get one of those the cards to be able to take the different metro systems. So I go over the metro system, and in my head, I guess I was still thinking about Japan dollars, but I went over and I accidentally didn't even convert it. I was just thinking my Taiwanese dollars were like the same as so I put like $50 on my whatever the card's called. It's called the Metro card. And I was like, wait a minute, this is way too much because everything was so cheap. I went like miles. I went like a pretty good distance and it was like 60 cents. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm never gonna run out of this stuff. But unfortunately, when I went up to Taipei 101, you're actually able to use that card at certain places. So that's kind of the nice thing about that card that they have. You can use it at the 7-Eleven, and I think I bought myself some souvenir or something like that. And me and this guy who I met, who was actually a pilot who flew for, I don't know if it was like FedEx or something like that, but we met at the Grand Hyatt there, and he was like, hey, you want to go check out Taipei 101 tomorrow? And I go, cool. So we went to Taipei 101, and then we got like a drink and we got some food. But it was cool hearing him talk about how he flies around the world just as a pilot in these different places. So, but I didn't know anyone. He was like, yeah, let's go there. And it was cool seeing all that. And they're all like huge into baseball. There's a lot of different things I didn't really realize about it there. So it was fun getting over there. Yeah, I went and it was December. So the weather it was cold in Japan. When I went to Taipei, it was just fine. But I have heard that it can get really humid if you go certain times of the year. First time catching live. Welcome. Thank you. I'm so happy you like all my content. So you flying Vietnam Airlines. So I am flying them. Points are pretty. So I'm not flying them long distance. I'm flying them while I'm there because I want to check out the north and the south. So I'm going to be doing just an economy flight from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City. So that's the only thing I'm really doing while there when it comes to those flights. Yeah. But let me go back to make sure I've got to make sure I get this one last question over here. So there was a gentleman, Wayne, he hit me up on Instagram when I asked anyone who wanted to, they could drop questions for the live. So we had Luke Point Smiles had this question earlier. Awesome. Big fan of Luke's channel. But then Wayne also hit me up with a question, and he kind of was asking about it was a lot longer, so I kind of just shortened it here. But essentially what he was saying was he asked me a question months ago, asking me about hey, how do I determine which one I'd rather book, whether it be if I have United miles and I also have, I think you were saying transferable currencies, if I would rather transfer over the points to something like Air Canada, but if it's for a speculative booking. Because with United, you can get a free cancellation, but it ends up being more costly. Whereas with Air Canada, it ends up being cheaper. But if you want to cancel an Air Canada award booking, it ends up being, I think it's like 110 or it's somewhere near about $100. So how do we end up going about that? And if I remember correctly, how I told him previously was it really comes down to how many transferable currencies I have. If I have a lot of transferable currencies and I only have 100, let's say 100,000 United miles, then I may end up just transferring over to Air Canada I'm probably going to end up transferring over to Air Canada to make the booking, but it all comes down to how speculative of a transfer is this. Like if am I talking to a buddy going, hey, do you want to go over to Munich for Oktoberfest? And he's like, maybe, let me see if we can go. And then we're kind of just in it. It relies on him being able to book it for me to go. Then, I would probably end up using United miles there because I don't want to have to really possibly pay the $100 in cancellation fee for something that I may or may not end up doing. Or if it's something like, you want to go to a wedding, but you don't know necessarily if you can get the time off, things like that. So you may end up doing the speculative transfer there. But a lot of times, or speculative bookings there. But a lot of times I don't end up doing speculative bookings. I wouldn't do it with like a United versus a Air Canada. I would end up doing Air Canada because you already are prepaying for what would be the additional costs. Because if you're looking at something, if you were to book like United business class, not United business class, you would book with United miles to book a business class flight over to Europe, it's going to end up being 88,000. If it's United, I believe it's 80,000. Whereas Air Canada, you can do it for 60,000. So this is a significant difference. However, if you have to cancel, you have to pay $100. Now, if this is something that I think that it's a good likelihood I'm going to be able to book, I'm going to be paying with my Air Canada points or transferring it over because of the fact that I don't want to have to pay 20 to 20, maybe even almost 30,000 more points with United Miles, even though I do value the United Miles less than the Air Canada points or miles, because of the fact that it's some like if I end up thinking about it, that at some point maybe I would transfer my points over to United, which I wouldn't if I transferable currencies like Chase or Bilt. Well, if it ends up being the case, then that would end up being significantly more points that end up costing. So he was more saying not transferring over. You already have United Miles, which one would I end up using? And the reality is that I would not. I would pay the cheaper costs and then just deal with the cancellation if I need to cancel. But it really come down to what level of speculative booking, how many United. If I have let's say I had 300,000 United Miles, then I would redeem my United Miles because I see them to be less valuable miles and I just want to get rid of them. But if I want to be able to have the option to be able to do a speculative booking, and honestly, I would try to use my United Miles more for trying to book United because it does end up being a little bit cheaper. And that's the way I'd end up going about it. But he asked another question coming in, and he kind of gave a more specific number being, would you book with United Miles or Aeroplan points for speculative booking? United costs more, being at 100,000 versus 90,000, but there ends up being a free cancellation. Right here, you were already saying that you are paying the cancellation fee if you, even if you aren't going to be canceling, if you book with United. Because if you needed to transfer, now you're not going to be transferring over to United. You kind of said that in his post. He was like the difference between it. But if you needed to transfer over to United at any point, it'd be essentially the same, other than if you got a transfer bonus over to Air Canada. So because of that, you wouldn't want to be transferring over all these additional points over to United when you don't need to, if you can be able to book with your Air Canada points. So a more realistic number would end up being like the one where I said would end up being maybe something like either 80 or 88,000 going over to Europe versus 60,000 or possibly 70,000 going over Europe with Air Canada. If you can take also advantage of a transfer bonus, I mean, the only way I'd end up just saying, hey, I'm going to do it with my United points is if I had more than just 100,000 United points. You put me at 200,000 United points, get rid of these points. They're less valuable. I just want to hurry and get rid of them. But if you end up having them lower, then I'm just going to go, okay, well, I want to be able to have the option for speculative bookings out there because this is a good thing to be able to have with my with their points, whether it be American Airlines miles, Alaskan Airlines miles, although Alaskan is $12, but it's still very cheap in cancellation fee, JetBlue points. So I want to be able to have that as an option instead of with Air Canada, you don't really get that option. It costs over $100. So hopefully that makes sense. I would say that if you have the ability, you want to at first try to, if I have the ability, I'm just going to be booking with Air Canada points. Like more than likely I'm going to be booking with Air Canada points than I am going to be booking with United Miles. Unless I end up having a surplus of United Miles, then I'm going to be doing that. But if I am booking a specifically United flight, then I would end up doing it with my United points because that's the best deal I can get redeeming my United Miles versus trying to redeem my United Miles for a other Star Alliance partner. Hopefully that makes sense. I know I said a lot of stuff there, but that's really what it comes down to. You have to kind of think about when you are trying to think about the cancellation. You're already prepaying for the cancellation, and you wouldn't want to do that other things. Like if you could go somewhere and say, hey, I want to go to this restaurant. Well, it's going to be $100 cancellation fee if I decide to come here, or I can book for like you don't. I guess you also asked in the question like, do you if you could book for 90,000 points because you're doing the flexible rate? I don't ever book the flexible rate with Air Canada. I'm booking the 75,000 points or 60,000 points with Air Canada because you're already prepaying for the cancellation if you book with the flexible rate. So that's just how I am. Hopefully that makes sense. We got Jake over here. He says, hey, JP, love your channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm at 424 and am curious how you would choose between the Hawaiian card or the Red Aviator. Okay. Offers right now, or getting another Chase card like the IHG Business. Okay. So, yeah, I would go with the IHG Business. well, I guess what's the spend and what's your ability to be able to get the spend? So I guess they're all gonna. I see what you're trying to say here, because there's a possibility that the Red Aviator and the Hawaiian card may end up being not available for people to be able to get. I don't know. I know that they're probably going to merge the programs, but I don't know how soon the Hawaiian card is going to go away. So I'm not as concerned about the Hawaiian cards going away as soon. The Red Aviator, honestly, I would get, if I was you, because the Red Aviator, if it's like how it usually is, where it's just a single purchase, I would get the IHG card, and as soon as I got approved for it, then I would get the Red Aviator card on the exact same day. I would apply for it. So, because then it's just a single purchase. You can get, I'm assuming it's either 50 or 60,000 points usually. I don't know exactly what the bonus is at right now, but that's exactly what I would do. But obviously, first you want to get the IHG business, so then you can make sure that you get approved for your Chase card being at 424 and then going below. Oh, it's currently, I see Lynn says currently at 70,000 points. Yeah, so if it's currently at 70,000 points, you want to do so when I got my Red Aviator card last time I got it, I applied for the Citi card first, got approved for the Citi American Airlines card, and on the exact same day, I applied for the Red Aviator card. And when I did that, I got approved for both of them, and I was able to get, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands, what is it? Something like 130, 140,000 American Airlines miles just from doing that. Made one purchased a pack of gum from the gas station, and got either, I can't remember, it was 60 or 70,000 points that I got for the American Airlines card. So yeah, you want to first, the strategy you're going to want to do is you're going to want to first get approved for the IHG card, get those points. And then on the exact same day, if you honestly want to get these cards, what I would do is on the exact same day, I would apply for the American Airlines Red Aviator card. Just because then you can, it's not really any additional spend. It's just one purchase. And then in time, you can get yourself the Hawaiian card. I am not as concerned about that one right now. I think people are more concerned about the transfer ability going away. But I would be kind of shocked if all of a sudden, because there's more than one Hawaiian card, so I'd be kind of shocked if all of the Hawaiian cards would just became no longer available with Barclays, because I think it would end up taking some time for that actually end up being the case. We said Hanoi to Saigon is okay, cool. Nice. I think I just paid cash. I think it was something like, I can't remember how much it was, but it was very cheap. So I was just like, okay, I'll just pay cash for that. But yeah, it's good. I think I did check how much it was, but it wasn't that long a flight and wasn't that expensive. So I just booked it cash. It's like 70,000. Wonder if you can get it again. Yeah, so I'm gonna be under 524. Literally, I think it's in next week. So I'm hoping to get the Chase Sapphire preferred card again. So that would end up being big. For the longest time, I've had a lot of Chase points. If anyone's actually got my course, you may end up seeing how I've gotten a ton of Chase points and all the different things. But I had a surplus of Chase points for a while. But then I have booked a lot of Hyatt properties, and I've been transferring over to Aeroplan and doing things like that. So now my Chase points have gotten quite low. So I definitely could use 100,000 and end up being really nice. So as I get under 424. So as I get to 424 next week, but then with the card that's dropped me under 424 is going to actually be the Red Aviator card. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's one of the cards that I got 2 years ago, if I remember correctly. So it's kind of funny. I think I don't know if it's 48 months for that. I know it's 48 months for the business one for Citi, and it might also be 48 months for the personal one with Citi. But yeah, hey, give it a try. What's the worst thing that happen? I know some people get scared about inquiries, but I do not care about inquiries. So, I mean, there's a level. Obviously, I don't want to have to the point to where banks are just automatically going to deny me for everything. But it seems like even if you have a lot of inquiries, you can still end up getting approved for a lot of different banks. Get your P2, P3, P4 to get the Hawaiian cards, but you can transfer all of them. Yeah, that's the cool thing about the Hawaiian cards is that if you have the cards, you actually have the ability to transfer to other people who also have. I don't know if they even need to have the card. As long as you have the card, you can transfer to other people who have it. I forget exactly what the rules are. It's something around those lines, but that's something that actually is really cool about it. So if you do happen to have family members, get them to get the cards. I have many different family members, and 0 of them are into points and miles. They have 0 care about it until all of a sudden they go, "Hey, I have a trip that's coming up in 2 weeks. Someone asked me to go somewhere. How can I get him?" It's like, well, good luck to you, So it doesn't really work out like that. But it is awesome for anyone who can get their family to be a part of it, or even just if they are willing to open up the accounts that you tell them to get, because then, it allows you to be able to take great trips all together. No problem, Jake. Appreciate you stopping by. But that's pretty much it for the live. I have other things I want to talk about, but been going on for an hour and 40. I wanted to actually get it near like closer to an hour and a half, but there's just been so many things that I've actually want to talk about. There's been other things where I have other bookings that I did. I can kind of touch on it. Well, no, I'll do it a different live. But yeah, it's just me redeeming. I see some people say, "Oh, Virgin Miles," and speculate. I'm like, man, I love Virgin Points. And one thing that I've said about Virgin Points is, even when they devalue their program, I have yet to see them devalue anything that they've done that has still not been competitive with other awards out there. So if, for example, if you look at them devaluing the Delta One business class, oh no, it went from being 50,000 points, now it's 50,000 points and $1,000 in tax and fees. Or I think they just did that now, returning to the US, and people are angry and butthurt about that. But then it goes, okay, well, show me a better way to book it. You want to use 400,000 Delta Sky Miles? Like, there's not really a better way to book it. I guess you could do it from, I think there's a trick if you do it from Seattle over to, is it Taipei? There's like one that's a little bit cheaper. There is a route where you can do it with Delta Sky Miles, but most of the time you're going to end up having to spend more than that. So even though Virgin Atlantic has, like, they constantly have transfer bonuses and they've always been competitive with all the different bookings out there. So, but yeah, I actually just helped someone who hit me up, who purchased my course and then was like, "Hey, I have a thing that I'm trying to do," and pretty much did like a consultation with me. And then I was like, "Hey, there's an award to get over to Japan." They're in Hawaii, and they were like, "I need to get over to Japan." And an ANA first class flight popped up. This person never flown first class before. They're going to be absolutely blown away. So it just ends up being awesome. But I love their points. But at the same time, I feel like I have a lot of points in programs that people saw my points accounts and they'll go, "Why do you have all these and not just transferable currencies?" I'm kind of low on transferable currencies, but I have hundreds of thousands of Virgin Miles. I have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Hawaiian points as well. Hawaiian has 2. Funny enough, that's actually after I get the Chase Sapphire Preferred card. I am going to be looking at getting the Hawaiian Bank of Hawaii card as well. So those are my 2 next cards that I'm looking at, because it's interesting because for a minute there, like last year at this time, I wasn't even looking at Alaska Miles in the same way because I didn't like the way that they did their award chart. But now I see things where it does work for me, and I do want to get myself Alaska Miles. And if the gravy train of Alaska Miles is going to be over, at least through Amex in the next few months, and then possibly through them getting rid of some of these Hawaiian cards maybe by the end of the year, then take advantage of the fullest as you can right now before it's all done, because it just ends up being great for domestic American flights, and then really good if you want to fly throughout Asia to some degree. Some parts it's not very good, and ends up going from like 15,000 points to 50,000 points. But then the ones you can find that are 15,000 points, going from Kuala Lumpur to Bali, going from Osaka over to Taipei, doing some of these different ones. These end up being flights that are like 3.5, 4 hours, cost 15,000 points to get Starlux business class, and that's pretty darn good. So yeah. Let's see, we got one more comment, and then I'm going to end the live. So I guess these 2 are talking to each other. He's talking about getting the cards. So he says, yes, and they are tempting. I just got my P2 to get a Barclays one, also considering spending my 200,000 membership reward points once I finish my business gold sign up. Yeah, so for me, the way I look at it is like, what is the difficulty for you to get membership reward points? Because although I transferred over an enormous amount of membership reward points to my Hawaiian account, then to my Alaskan account, I'm already like getting close to like another 50,000, like having 50,000 membership reward points from using my gold card, from using my hitting different offers, doing Rakuten. So I can just kind of see those points getting up quickly. Whereas when I had Hawaiian Airlines points, the way I was getting, or sorry, Alaskan Airlines points, I got the personal, I got the business, and then I was using their shopping portal. But I remember being like, man, these things are going kind of quick. But then it was good to have them, and then they were kind of like, okay, they're going to be gone. But now the only thing I'm kind of more worried about is a devaluation. They did just kind of release their war chart, was that last year. So it would kind of be interesting if they just devalued many of their different things. But yeah, it's funny because the way to play this game on, I guess I don't want to call it God mode, but like the best mode in it would be if you could earn points in the US, but then you don't need to get over the ocean. You're just in Asia and you're just traveling around Asia. Because the deal is to be able to book throughout Asia, booking with Starlux, booking with Japan Airlines, booking all these different things. Like they're costing 50,000 or below points to go to like all these different places that can be like 6-hour flights, and they're like open all the time. It's absolutely incredible. The hardest part is just getting over the ocean, specifically from the US. That's the part that ends up being challenging. 35,000 points to go to South America. Yeah, I've looked at that. I was looking at like Santiago, Chile, and there's all these different places where if you want to go down there, it can end up being really good for. However, I will say that when you do look at those flights, you'd be surprised at how cheap getting flights down to Latin America can end up being just cash. Like, and I'm not a huge cents per points person, but sometimes there are some that end up being like 50,000 points, and you might end up seeing a round trip in business class for $1,600-$1,700 in some of the Latin American places. I think more specifically like Colombia and stuff like that. But I remember I was looking, and I think this is actually even in my course, looking at different places for South America. But a lot of times in South America, you can end up getting business class for not too expensive. I think with Alaska Miles, it makes sense. But if you want to do Virgin Atlantic, where it ends up being more expensive, it almost like mathematically doesn't make sense because of how often you can get a cash fare, or you could use something maybe even like a Aeroplan card with a transfer bonus to be able to book the exact same thing. But you would be able to earn points with that program. But yeah, Alaska Miles has a lot of different cool sweet spots. And for me right now, it's Starlux is kind of, unless you're already over there, it's kind of not as I see as being as open. So I'm not really even looking at that as much. But getting over to Europe from the West Coast, Condor, even though it's not the greatest, is something that is open from the West Coast of the US. So if you want to fly from San Fran or LA or Phoenix, and then just the short flights, all these different short flights around are really, really cool to be able to do with Alaska Miles. So, Jake, I would say I'm not going to tell you to transfer all of your 200,000 points, but if you're someone who can earn membership reward points really, really or decently fast, I think that it's more likely that, especially here's the thing, if you can, the reason why more so is that if you can earn points with other programs, like what transfer partners does American Express have that you're really going to be like, oh no, now I like ANA is going to be one of them that's kind of doing a devaluation, although it's now allowing you to book one ways with their program. So that's one you're going to be missing out. But if we're looking at something like, for example, Cathay Pacific, you could do that if you can get yourself Capital One Venture Miles. Like you're going to be able to like chase ultimate reward points and get you over to Air Canada, get you over to Avios, can get you over to Virgin Atlantic. So as much as I do like membership reward points, and I've gotten more value from them than any other transferable currency, I've also been able to rack them up faster than pretty much any other transferable currency. So because of that, it's like, well, my ability to be able to get them through Rakuten, through referrals, now that like my referrals just pop back up, and things like that, makes me less concerned, and hopefully should make you less concerned about being able to get membership reward points versus getting Alaska Miles, to where, although the gravy train's been going on for like, it's going to be close to a year and a few months. Well, I guess it started in September of last year, but as soon as that stops, it's either going to end up being a big devaluation, which would suck, or it would end up being that all these people who have Alaska Miles are going to be so thankful that they can take advantage of these different deals that other people can't, and they have a really cheap cancellation. So yeah. But alrighty, so that's about it. See the last few things. Yep. Expect for City A being exclusive. Yeah, they're trying to be exclusive. May 2026. Is there a waiting period when canceling the Barclays Red Aviator and reapplying? I've read different things on that. I've read some people were saying that they were able to re-get approved. Barclays is strange. I got it denied for that card. I think like the first 2 times I applied for it, but then when I applied and also got approved for the city one, then I got approved for it. So I have no idea what's going on there. But I think you can get it multiple times. Not like, or I think it's not 48 months, I guess is what I'll say. I don't know the exact time, but I've read from people saying that they've gotten it and then they've gotten it again. It doesn't seem like it was a month later. It may have been a year later or something like that, but people have gotten the bonus multiple times from it. I got to look at the terms and conditions to see exactly what it is. Maybe you're not supposed to, but I've read people saying that they have. Yeah. So, alrighty, everybody. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for stopping by. Again, I'm just going to plug my Points Travel 101 course. If you go to pointstravel101.com, you can either purchase my course or you can just write me a message and we can try to book a consultation if you're someone who's trying to figure out how to book awards that you want to try to do for an awesome trip in the future. But if you end up purchasing my course, then you won't even need to talk to me other than the consultation that you get with it, because you're going to have the knowledge to be able to book business and first class flights all over the world. But I want to thank you all so much for being here. And that is my time for tonight. And I can't wait to do another one of these because I feel like there's even more things I want to talk about, but I've just been talking for almost 2 hours now. And yeah, I think that's about a good amount of time. But thank you everyone for coming out tonight. Take care.